Hi, this is Angela Williams, Director of Adolescent Services at Georgetown Behavioral Health. If you're watching this video, it's because you saw my handy dandy notebook and you thought there's no way I want to read that. I'd rather just watch the video. I'm going to try to keep this to 15 minutes or less. Joining me in the background is one of the family pets, Simba. He may be in or out of the video. Okay, so one of the things that we're trying to create on our unit, and I think that many of you have heard about this, is an environment where we focus on trauma-informed care. Over the last 40 years in the mental health industry, I think we've become more and more aware of what we call adverse childhood experiences and what the effects of toxic stress do inflict upon the developing brain. You can certainly read more about that on the National Substance Abuse website, samhsa.gov, samhsa.gov. I know probably a dozen of you were able to come to the training that myself and Mary Faith offered on adverse childhood experiences, and we will probably be offering another round of that. In order to be a trauma-informed care environment, you have to take a look at your 4 R's. Your first R is that we realize the widespread impact of trauma. The second R is that we recognize the signs and symptoms of trauma in our clients and people around us, in the families of our clients. The third is that we respond by integrating the knowledge that we have about toxic stress and trauma into our policies and procedures. And the fourth R is that we resist re-traumatizing our clients. Along those lines, in the 25 years I've been doing this, I find that time and time again, level systems are misused more than they are used appropriately, and can lead to the exact opposite of what we want. What we want, also another R, are relationships with our clients. The way that we can help folks overcome the things they've been through is provide a safe, supportive environment, surround them with responsive and caring staff who are willing to build relationships with them. Therefore, we're going to be transitioning to a points program away from the level system. I have put together, like I said, this rather overwhelming notebook. It will stay in the cabinet of the nurse's station closest to Unit 2, and I will certainly label that when I put this up there. So I'm going to try to just kind of I'm trying to summarize what all of this says, so that we're all on the same page. First thing we need to talk about is the language of the points program. The language that we're going to use with our points is to tell our clients that they can earn points or they cannot earn points. What I need you to eradicate from your vocabulary is the word lose, because that has such a negative connotation, and it acts like we're kind of like out to get the kids instead of out to support the kids. So what we're going to be saying is things like, I'd really like you to earn your points by going to group. I can tell that you really don't want to go to group. How can we solve this problem together so that you can get to group and earn your points? What I don't want to hear is, you're going to lose your points if you don't go to group. That just has to not even be part of the equation, because it gets back to setting up that power struggle. It's reminiscent of, I'm going to drop you to red if you don't go to group. The second thing to keep in mind is that we're trying to mimic our GBHI's clinical paradigm. If you haven't heard our clinical paradigm, basically it has to do with that our first 3 days of treatment is a crisis phase. Someone is coming in because they're meeting criteria for admission, so there's probably been some type of crisis. I didn't want to use the word crisis on a point sheet, so what I've decided to call it is the entry phase of treatment. And then after 3 days in treatment, the next part of the clinical paradigm is the treatment phase. So we'll have 2 point sheets. Entry phase is the first full 72 hours of treatment. So let's say you have a kid who comes in Monday at 3 o'clock. They'd have a full day of treatment on Tuesday, a full day of treatment on Wednesday, and a full day of treatment on Thursday. So those 3 days, they would be on the yellow entry phase point sheet. And then starting with the changeover into Friday, they would be on the treatment phase point sheet. Kids on the entry phase will carry the point sheet, the staff will carry their point sheets, because again, these kids are probably in crisis, they haven't been started on medications, it could be their first hospitalization, they're overwhelmed, they don't know the schedule, they don't know the expectations, so staff will keep this on their clipboard. I've had the marking times match the schedule as best as possible. The expectations are also a little bit less for kids on the entry phase. All we're looking for them to do is to be safe, to be respectful, and to follow the schedule. So as long as the kiddo is doing those three things in that marking period, you put initials under safe. I have a lot of pets going in and out of the pet door. You put initials for being safe, initials for being respectful, and initials for following the schedule if they're doing those 3 things. Let's say you're at breakfast and a kid calls a peer a name. Then you would just not put any initials for that corresponding time frame under respect. And over here in the column that says behavior causing unearned points, you would put called peer a name in the cafeteria. Halfway through the day, it's very helpful if you total up the points. It makes it much easier on second shift if they're halfway totaled. I'll be ordering a calculator that we'll have with the point store to help with tallying. And then at the end of the day, you tally up again. The max you can make if you have an absolutely perfectly met expectation kind of day would be 48. Then you would earn a bonus of 10. So the maximum is 58. On the back is kind of for the kid an explanation of how to meet those expectations, and also for the staff as well. Well, what does Angela mean by safety? It's right here. Well, what does Angela mean by following the schedule? It's right there. Okay, after the 72 hours of treatment, then the kids move to the treatment phase point sheet, which we're going to keep on green paper. Important thing about this is now the kid keeps the point sheet on their person. This is, again, we're expecting that the crisis has passed, they're a little bit more put together, they're a little bit more organized. Now, of course, we want to be flexible. If we have a kid whose ADHD has not been touched by medication and you can look at him, and the phrase is incompetent. If you think he is too incompetent to carry this point sheet successfully, you can absolutely talk to another member of your team and say, yeah, there's no way little Johnny can keep up with his point sheet, we're going to hang on to it. Again, you want to make that decision with another member of the treatment team. And incompetent versus competent is not an insult to the kid. It's a recognition that there are some skills that some kids don't have, and there are some skills that some kids do have. Expectations go up a little bit. Now we're looking for respectful safety, healthy boundaries, and active treatment participation. And again, I spell out on the other side what I mean by those 3 things. A word about healthy boundaries. I've definitely noticed, well, first of all, let me say that boundaries are physical and emotional, and I kind of explain that a little bit on the back. I see way too many kids touching each other, too much kids in each other's hair, kids giving each other hugs, kids hanging all over each other. I think with the institution of the point system, we're really going to start pushing the boundaries. The physical contact can be too often misinterpreted, misconstrued, can lead to sexual acting out. So we're really going to have to start in a positive way enforcing healthy boundaries. And this is one way to do it. Well, unfortunately, you didn't earn your healthy boundaries initials this hour because you kept touching, Joanna's hair or something like that. And emotional boundaries are about, I hate to pick on my own gender, the way these girls get up in each other's business. One girl gets called a name and then 5 other girls are creating a big drama about it. What we want to encourage is everybody takes care of their own business and doesn't get their emotions worked up by another's emotions. That would be an example of an emotionally healthy boundary. Totals work the same way. So the last marking period is at 8:30. That is because around 8:30, 8:40, well, I think on the schedule it's 8:30. On even calendar days, the girls will shop at 8:30, and this will be reflected on the new schedule. The girls will shop at 8:30, and then they'll have their evening community and goals group at 9. So on the 2nd, 4th, and 6th, the girls go first. On odd calendar days, the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, the boys will shop at 8:30, and they will have their community meeting at 9 o'clock. And therapists too, at the end of your time, let's say recreation therapy, clinical therapy, leave 5 minutes at the end of the group, and to all the green people say, hey, I need to see your point sheet so I can put initials. Okay, so the last marking phase on the marking time on the point sheet is 8:30. So what that means is late in the evening, as the kids are getting ready for bed, we need new point sheets starting to be filled out by our second shift that start with 9:30. So for instance, the kid I mentioned who's going to start on treatment phase Friday morning, you would start this, this would be the date, like let's say today is June the 6th to June the 7th. So the first marking period is that evening, and then it goes on with the morning until 8:30 that night. The yellow folks, you can either ask for them from the tech, or you can let the tech know, hey, all of the yellow cards earn their points for this hour. You really want to be marking them at every time on the sheet, because if you wait till halfway through, you're going to have trouble remembering who earned what point. So try to leave yourself like 5 minutes, right before you're supposed to mark, to start making the markings on the point sheets. For the shopping, at the end of the day, we're going to have what's called the G-Town Point Store, and you guys are, I'm more than happy for y'all to come up with another name. I'm not the most creative person in the world. Basically what I'm going to need to do, and what I'm planning on doing, is purchasing a rolling cart like this one with a bunch of different bins. They will be labeled with how much each item costs in the point store. When you start your point store time, I would start with again, this way you can reward your high-end earners. If they, let's say little Susie, had the most points and she earned 58, well then she can go first, and then you kind of work your way down from there. They should only be given a couple or 3 minutes to make their choices, because after the first night they're going to know everything that's on the cart. They cannot carry their points over from one day to the next. Let me repeat that. They cannot carry their points over from one day to the next. This is not like T-Note Mobile or whatever where you carry your minutes over. They cannot give their points to other people. Like, well, I want to donate 20 points to Susie because she's my best friend. Because then you get all kinds of bartering for behaviors that I'm not even going to get into on this video. What they can do to promote teamwork is I'm ordering several PG and G movies that are going to be on the cart that are going to cost more, probably 70 or 75 points. So they could combine their points. Like this kid has 30, this kid has 20, this kid has 20 or whatever. Hey, we're going to combine our 70 points and we want to buy this movie to donate to the unit. So they're not buying the movies to take home with them. They're buying the movies to donate to the unit, just to create a little bit of collaboration amongst them. But if you guys ever notice they're putting pressure on each other, that doesn't work out well, just let me know and we can take that out. I just wanted to give it a try and see what happens. There are some coupon items that they can purchase. This is a late night coupon. So for 25 points, the kiddo could buy this from the point store and could turn it in to stay up until 10 o'clock. Standard bedtime on the new schedule, which will roll out with the point store, will be 9:30. This coupon means they could stay up till 10. This coupon must be spent on the day that it's purchased, because I don't want a lot of kids kind of saving up to stay up late the same night, because that could lead to all kinds of trouble. Another coupon they can buy is to be first in line for unit meals for 25 points. So in the morning, they present this to the MHT and they say, hey, I want to be first in line on the unit for all meals today. First come, first serve. If it's a tie for 2 kids turning in their coupon to you, I don't know, do rock, paper, scissors or something. Also, they can buy an extra phone call at 11 a.m. So they could present this coupon right before 11 and say, hey, I bought this in the point store. I'd like to turn this in. When I first started working here, and I think maybe it was Kendra and maybe somebody else talked about, well, could we have like a movie night for the kids that are doing really well? So even though this sounds a little bit complicated, hang in there with me, because the goal is to create a positive peer culture where the kids want each other to do well and earn their points because they can earn a pizza and movie party. The way this is going to work is every Saturday, we're going to have staff post these, one on each unit, where we track the kids' daily totals. So for Saturday, you're going to write down the kids' name. Some of them are already going to be there, and you're going to put how many points they earned on Saturday, overnight. Overnight on Sunday, you're going to put how many points that they earn, and you're going to keep track of that Saturday through Friday so that we can determine whether or not they get the pizza and movie party on Saturday. So I've done a little example here, and this example will be in the book for you guys to take a look at. So for instance, Abby didn't come in until Monday, so they started writing her points in on Monday. Next kid, Bobby, got here on Sunday. They started writing his points in on Sunday. David was here at the beginning of the week, but then you can see David was discharged. So all through the week, they've added kids as they're admitted and discharged, and if they're here at night when they're doing the tally, they add the points in. Okay. So at the end of the week, Saturday morning, for instance, and if staff overnight could do this Friday, I think that would be the easiest thing. You want to cross off all the kids who are not here anymore heading into Saturday morning. So on here we have David, Henry, Nathan, all discharged during the week. So we just draw a line through because their points are not going to count for the pizza and movie party. Then what you do is you just do your weekly tally of all the kids who are still here, and the total obviously goes in the total column over here. So what I've done here is I've added up all the current patients total, and I got 2,674 points, just kind of a random, well, not a random total, but random points that I gave everybody. Then, this is where, bear with me, then you have to count how many eligible scores there are. So every box of every kid who's still here. So for instance, Abby was here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's 5 times she could have gotten a perfect score. Then you have Bobby, who was here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of this marking period. 6 times he could have gotten a perfect score for 48. So when I went through and counted all the eligible perfect days, if you will, I wound up with 69. So you take 69 and you multiply by 48, because we're just going to go with 48. We're not going to worry about the 58s. And so the maximum they could have gotten for the week was 3,302. So in order to figure out the percentage, you take the total, you divide it by the possible they could have made, and then you have your percentage earned is 80%. So what we're going to start with is that's the cutoff. If the kids make 80% of possible points during the week, you're going to text me or call me on Saturday and say, hey Angela, they earned the pizza party. This is how many patients we have, and then I'll order pizza based on 2 slices a person. So y'all are really going to have to monitor that kids only take the pizza that they're supposed to. So Saturday night after hygiene, after you've done your goals group, after they've done their shopping, I'll have the pizza come around 9, and we're going to let them stay up till 10:30. Of course, if you have a kid who's running amok at 9:05, even though he's had a perfect week, if he's being unsafe at 9:05, he doesn't get to participate in the pizza and movie party. Again, that decision needs to be made by 2 people that you both feel like that little Joey's behavior is unsafe enough that little Joey doesn't need to be in the pizza and movie party. So we'll see how this goes. It might be hard to develop a positive peer culture when the kids are only there 7 to 10 days, but we will, you guys just need to be giving me feedback, give it a couple of weeks, see how things are going, and then let me know if you think that that's really if that's really working for everybody. I'm sure what's going to come up for people is, what do we do about unsafe behavior? Again, it's not that, as Mary Faith was explaining in our training, we're not trying to coddle these kids, but we're not trying to punish them. We can't punish them into more positive, healthy behavior. There was a slogan on one therapist's wall one time that said, rules without relationship equals rebellion. So we're trying to build a relationship. When a kid is unsafe, and that's unsafe to self, unsafe to others, unsafe to property, I would recommend you reach out to the provider on call and ask for a 24-hour unit restriction. Per policy, by order, we can do a 24-hour unit restriction. It needs to say something like, restrict patient to the unit for 24 hours secondary to their self-harm gesture. You could also ask for one of our 3 precautions. We have self-harm / suicidal precautions, we have assault / aggression precautions, and we have sexual acting out precautions. So in addition to the unit restriction, you could also add the precautions, but putting someone on precautions per policy does not restrict them to the unit. The restriction to the unit is a separate physician order. If a patient exhibits unsafe behavior, obviously for that time frame, they don't earn their points for being safe, probably for not being respectful, probably they're not following the schedule. I mean, it depends on the incident. But just because they're restricted to the unit doesn't mean they can't earn their points, because in that 24 hours, I hope that we're working on repair and relationship building, and hey, what went wrong for you, what's your plan next time, and hey, you're doing great right now, you just earned all 3 points for this past hour. So they can absolutely earn points when they're restricted to the unit as soon as they start meeting the expectations. Just a couple of other things. I'll keep a ream of yellow and a ream of green paper in that same cabinet on the unit. You'll see that I have added a couple of, here's the entry phase point sheet. I've made 50 copies of the yellow. Here's the treatment phase point sheet. I've made 50 copies of the green. So if overnight could help me kind of keep those supplied, and I'm happy to help during the day if you guys get overwhelmed. My goal is to get everything ordered towards the end of the month and sometime the beginning of July to roll this out. I'll pick a date when I have everything I need for this to be successful. I don't want us to roll it out before we have all the tools that we need to keep it successful. If you have any questions at all, feel free to call me, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you can. I appreciate all the dedication that I see of you guys who are here to support a trauma-informed care environment, to support an environment where we're working on building relationships with these kiddos. And thank you very much for your time today.